Hello and welcome. We are in conversation with Ravi Venkatesan, a former chief of Microsoft in India, now a director on the board of Infosys. Also, I know him from his time in Cummins, the engine company, and now to be a author of a very, or rather what sounds like a very interesting book. Ravi, thank you very much for joining us.
Hi, Govind. Good to see you again.
So I will talk to you about your book in a moment, but you've obviously got interests, or you've got connections with the world of IT services and IT. What's 2013 looking like in general, and then I'll come to the specific.
I don't know. I guess I'm a bit of an optimist. I tend to think of that there's enormous demand out there, but obviously it's requiring different tactics and different capabilities and different types of leadership to go get it. So I don't subscribe that much to a sort of a dark scenario. But I do recognize that demand is harder to access and harder to predict. So in just the traditional terms, I think there's, obviously green shoots that the industry is talking about. I think Infosys and other companies see it also. But fundamentally, if you speak to any of the great, big technology companies, not IT services companies, they talk about that life they talk about things being incredibly dynamic and amazing right now. So you're seeing not only new devices, you're seeing the whole cloud thing gather momentum. You're seeing, for me, the evolution of natural user interfaces, not just touch with an iPad, but voice, motion, the emergence of whole walls and screens as display devices, and what this is going to enable is amazing. And so I think we're just on the cusp of seeing a huge next wave of IT adoption, both in enterprise as well as on the consumer side.
You're really talking about India here.
I'm talking everywhere in the world. You're seeing this in every part of the world. You see Indian IT.
And India is keeping pace with that, is what you would say.
I'm worried about that. I think we continue to be stymied in the domestic market by the lack of bandwidth. Okay, so we were all very hopeful that the entry of Reliance and with affordable 4G networks would really fill in that gap, but that is taking time. But I think in this connected world, if you don't have connectivity, it's a real inhibitor, and that's the one thing that worries me. Otherwise, I think that both the demand and supply conditions for India are pretty decent.
So we're also talking about the domestic market growth overtaking the export market growth
in percentage terms.
In percentage terms, yeah.
I think that's a bit that's kind of nice and self-congratulatory.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot more work that needs to be done. We're talking about growth of an incredibly low base.
Yeah.
I think we're still at 10 million broadband connections when the definition of broadband is very generously defined at 512K. So it's just nuts. So when you take it off that tiny base, and you can say, well, that's high double-digit growth or whatever, but that's kind of, it's a pointless thing. The important thing to recognize, I think there's that huge wave of IT adoption still ahead of us in India.
So that's the theme you're focusing on. Is that what you would say for the year ahead, maybe?
Yeah, well, who's you? Is that me, or is it a company whose board I'm on, or part of the industry?
I mean, the way you see it, I mean, given your own rich experience in this world.
No, personally, I'm much more interested in seeing what's happening to technology as opposed to adoption. And what is the growth in IT services and so forth. To me, we're seeing the transformation of a computer from being a tool. Think Excel, Word, and all that. Those were tools that you use. We're seeing its evolution into being an assistant. Okay, that means you will now relate to a computer more and more the way you relate to your personal assistant.
Right.
You will talk to it. It'll talk back. It'll understand the context, and this is going to be a revolution in productivity. And revolution actually in societal terms. So to me, that is far more interesting than is the demand for IT services this quarter or this year better or worse than last year. That's not what excites me.
And that seems to be looking strong.
I think that's also looking, I wouldn't say strong.
Or stable, strong.
It's looking moderately optimistic and encouraging. Right. And so we've all got fingers crossed. Should be a decent year, I think, for Nasscom companies.
Right. So tell us about your book.
Yeah, well, you know, everybody likes to say there's a book within me, and the old joke is, and there it should remain. But I decided to take some time off to actually research and write this, and it's almost done. The title of the book is Conquering the Chaos, and the subtitle is Win in India, Win Everywhere, and it's coming out late in May this year. And in this book, I look at why are most multinational companies so unsuccessful in India. And when I say so unsuccessful, I think for most multinational companies, India is still a talent story. You know, the IT outsourcing or doing R&D work out here, etc. When it comes to the market, India as a market is typically less than 1% of their global revenues, less than 5% of their global growth. And I think that's really bad for two reasons. One is I think they're missing a big opportunity in India. Number two, I point out something counterintuitive. With all our problems in India, bad government, ineffective government, shitty infrastructure, with our uncertainty of policies, blah, 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 we look exactly like every other emerging market. You take a look at Indonesia, their land acquisition laws makes India look streamlined in comparison. You go to Brazil, their taxation and corruption issues are every bit as bad as ours. But they don't have the same market potential taken over 10, 20, 30 years that India has. So I make the argument that if you don't succeed in India, chances are you're not going to succeed anywhere else. Conversely, India is such a tough case. If you succeed here, you'll probably win everywhere. So I bring that out with very real examples. And I think for me, the biggest takeaway, that hard as the market is, the bigger challenge for multinational companies is their own headquarters. And that's where the change has to be.
Right. Ravi, thank you so much. And I think that's a very good note, because perhaps none better than you to bring this experience of a multinational headquarters, working in India, building businesses.
Well, it's very kind of you to say so. I look forward to talking to you when you've read the book.